I also have some do's and don'ts for your presentation. For example, don't use more than 6 colors. One of the reasons is if you have a chart that needs more than 6 colors, then it probably has too much information. Try to break it down to smaller pieces of information as much as you can, right? If you are there talking about 100 different companies, then you're there talking about 100 different companies and you use a different color for each one. Just remember, there aren't that many different colors, and if the colors look the same, it starts to look confusing. And if people can't tell the difference, they say, well, which company was that? Or the information is too small. If you have 100 companies, it's too much information in one graph. You're going to be talking about it for a really long time, and people will lose interest. So, although the information is interesting, I trust you, too much information squeezed into a small graph is not helpful. It's too confusing, it's overwhelming, and hard to follow. So, your audience is your audience. You have to talk to them. You cannot talk to, some your partner who may feel the same way about everything as you, and they want 100 companies and they want all the information at one time. Your audience are different people from different parts. They need you to make it a little bit simpler. And at the same time, saying that, in addition, I would add using abbreviations is helpful for you. It simplifies things for you, but it can get really confusing to people who don't know the shorthand. So try to use the full term when you are speaking, and when you have the visual aid, because it's already written, you can have in parentheses, now think of an abbreviation. Some abbreviation and what it means. You can have that you can have it on every slide. All I'm trying to say is when you're giving people information, you don't know how much they know. So if you feel like you have to use the abbreviation, or it's a habit, you can't stop yourself from doing it, then just make sure to repeat what that abbreviation means so that people don't get lost. The HBR, I know what it means, but if you don't know what it means, the information will be lost. The person will say, well, I don't know what HBR means. I don't know what it stands for. I'm confused. And then that person is lost to you. And that's too bad. You can avoid that. Not too many abbreviations, not too many colors. All right, so far so good. Try to use consistent designs. It's more interesting to have different kinds of, circular graph, line graph, this chart. More interesting because variety is interesting, but at the same time, if you're talking about different companies, but you're talking about the same kind of information, having consistent graphs or consistent imagery is better, because then it's easier for people to take in a large amount of information, right? If you have different companies represented by different colored graphs, but the graphs show time and cost, and those things are the same, just different companies and different information, then don't have one be in a circle and one be in a line, have them both be in a line. Even if you show one at a time, people will be able to compare them in their mind if there's consistency. Tip, okay, all right. And one of the suggestions was always start your graphs at 0. Don't start them somewhere else because that's confusing. Basically, try not to confuse your audience. I think that's a fair general statement. All right, now I'd like to talk to you about vocabulary. The vocabulary for speaking about graphs is something that you have to memorize. The reason you have to memorize them is because if you're talking about graphs enough to for this episode to be useful to you, then you need to be able to use different words to emphasize, make stronger, emphasize what you're saying, okay, to the point where you can't just use this graph shows this line going up. This line going up is not good enough. You have to use different vocabulary and more interesting vocabulary. So here is some vocabulary that you are going to use. The line that goes up, the upward line. The line that goes down, the downward line. Overall, in general, mostly we see, right? Okay? And then you'll notice the next line says soar, leap, rocket, surge, and climb. All of those are to talk about things that go up. Sink, drop, dip, plummet. All of those are things that go down. Significant, dramatic, sharp, sudden. Those are adjectives to describe how something is going up or down. And slight and gradual. Those are also how things are going up or down. Significant, dramatic, sharp, and sudden, they're all big ones. Slight and gradual are all smaller ones. All of this vocabulary will appear in the information below section and on the homework. Don't freak out about how much you have to memorize. When you actually look at these things, they aren't that many words. I'm not a big memorized person. I'm not that kind of teacher. I don't think that if you sit and try to memorize large amounts of lists of words, like I don't think that that's effective. But when certain vocabulary is essential for your daily job, your weekly presentations, your Monday meetings, then I think it's worth taking the time to try to remember them and practice using them in your presentations. Feel free to use presentations. I will add a worksheet specifically for visual speaking or speaking about visuals, and I'm going to use some graphs that you will then make a video to talk about. So today, this lesson was just making sure you have some basic rules for why we use visuals, do's and don'ts, and some vocabulary you're going to have to memorize. Sorry. All right, next time we're going to talk about anecdotes. What is it? Tune in and find out. All right, guys. Try, make mistakes, keep going. Bye.